It's 11 o'clock.
Thank you, Zarvox.
I'm going to kick it up just a notch here, Robert.
Kick it up a notch.
Maybe just a little more. I don't know.
Boom, 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 boom. As the base of science fades into the west.
It's all about the bass, you know. I'm trying to support my bass.
That's what I hear. It's all about the base. Try to keep the base on my happy,
base,
and you should be elected in 2024.
My bass is happy. I've got it here. My high tech. I've named my bass Rufus. Because that is one of I learned some stuff from a bass player named Rufus, and you know whether that was his real name or not.
Well, but
it's because I'm thinking that's a name for a bass player, right?
I
there.
would think that if you are going to name a bass, you wouldn't name it after a roof.
Well, this one was made from.
Okay, all right. Okay, so just want to say welcome to Radio Science News. This is May 29th, 2021. This is episode number 787 in a series. I know. You're all excited because you know it's a prime number, and it indeed is. And I'm in a constant awed amazement. Richard must have every musical instrument that there is, and he comes in and he plays them, and it's just awesome. So if you're,
I was even thinking I should work up a prime number theme and sound like this: dun 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 dun, bum 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 bum. Wait, that sounds familiar. You may think it's going to be
Pretty Woman.
I'm going to go
pretty numbers. They're prime pretty numbers.
Prime number. That's right. The prime number theme song. I could get carried away. People are saying, okay, this is Radio Science News. You guys have, again, as I'm going to announce, too many topics to ever cover.
Good.
And they're going to say, and why are you wasting time like jamming along? I'm just going to say that every show I listen to on public broadcast or anything has like these 15, 20-second transitions between next section coming up.
Why? Because we didn't have enough information to share with you, and so we're just trying to suck up a little bit of time.
Plus, I could just be jamming all because science is my jam, Robert.
Science is our jam.
Science is our jam.
Yes.
That's right.
Hey, so if you are wanting to join Richard and I in our quest for science here on Radio Science News, we're going to get you to the launch pad of science. If you go to www.smartcenter.org, SMARTCENTER.org, you can join us. That gets me to the link. Just above the little trifecta rainbows there is the words Radio Science News. I'm going to click on those. And that brings us to the sketchpad. Now it's the launch pad of science that Richard lovingly puts up for our science inconvenience.
I love to, but I just put too much love.
That's
on this
okay.
one.
That's okay. So we've got UAP
again,
unidentified aerial phenomenon. Phenomenons. And then radar.
Well, that's because listen. Again, we're just going to touch bases on some of these, and as I've said to you folks before, please don't be upset that we have too many topics. That's because we want these to be there for your pleasure during the week.
Yes.
And yeah, you look at these later, and we are going to barely touch on these. But I found it important because just as I'm putting up stories yesterday, there's a whole new thing where some new stuff has been released.
Oh, there's always new stuff released. In fact, things are released every hour of the day.
Well, but these are specific to the topic of UFOs is very interesting to me, and I actually do in some ways appreciate the unidentified aerial phenomenon.
I also
because I think the important thing is as observers. it's important to observe and then say, this is what I observe. And then maybe, then you figure out whether or not there were issues with
what it is that you actually observed.
So, and I am absolutely about looking at it from a scientific point of view and not the sensational weird stuff that has.
But they could be aliens.
Well, they could be,
but they're probably not.
Well, and I'm going to say even the discussions of, well, they could be, or you can't disprove that they are.
Right.
Those kind of concepts are like, oh, prove they're not
aliens.
Prove
me wrong.
Prove that they're not aliens.
Exactly.
Science has a different point of view.
Yes.
And we're going to try to maintain that.
What the fascinating thing about doing science is that we're actually looking for the truth. And when I say the truth, we're looking for the asymptotic truth.
Hey, wait a minute.
We're
Watch your language.
Excuse me. There are kids out there. The asymptotic truth is the truest truth that we can get.
Yeah, and then when he talks about asymptotic, that means if you were a guy who suffered through like some math classes where they were talking about the asymptote, SMYMPTOTE. The idea was that it approaches but never reaches
the truth. So. And that's exactly why we do what we do. We're trying to reach the truest truth that we can get. And every day that goes by, every new thing that we learn brings us closer to the absolute truth.
Or closer to the edge in my case. I think.
Well, yeah, no. for those of us, yes.
All right, so get them to the launch pad and we'll leap into this as quick as we can.
So we've got unidentified aerial phenomena, radar, COVID origin. This is back into the news again. We've got BAT, which could be part of the COVID origin. We've got unreviewed. I'm not sure what that is.
Oh, that was the Batman thing. Unreviewed is I'm going to say, there are a couple things today that just have me kind of, I'm thinking too much coffee this morning, but I'm looking at people who are, when this says unreviewed, this is a key thing that showed up this week. Relevant to the COVID origin, and this other one is actually a shortened thing about the Bat Cave research.
Okay.
That people, it starts off one way, and then people start
going
reframing the
discussion. Reality.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick look at Zhurong,
and then clouds
on Mars.
Ooh, Martian clouds. Okay, and then
Starforge, which we didn't get to last week, and then I saw the weirdest story that
mine.
You and I have talked about
Bitcoin mine.
Just tangentially, because first of all, you and I aren't going to be buying any Bitcoins.
Probably not.
And even if I could, I'm thinking the whole Bitcoin thing unnerves me a little bit.
Yeah, it's
as a science fiction fan.
Yeah.
So we're gonna touch on that because this story will be crazy. And then where it says two, I've started. If there's more that we can put as a reference, that'll take us to that. And after it's a whole definition of Bitcoin that when you read through, you're going to say, "Oh my gosh." I'm going to say, count me out. This next one is about the earliest kind of the history of warfare. People said, oh, people have been fighting for millions of years. It's not actually true. They haven't really.
Whoa. You mean that we are actually in the process of learning new stuff?
Well, this is new stuff because the concept of warfare, and most people would understand from a common sense thing, well, if you were in the Garden of Eden and there were 800 apple trees, which you don't eat those. Don't eat the apple trees.
No.
But there was everything you needed in the Garden of Eden.
Okay.
And there were like just a couple of people. I mean, before Eve, I'm thinking maybe after Adam and Eve and then, Cain, then maybe there were like a group of 30 people.
Right.
And they went, wow, we've got enough food and stuff to last us 1,000 years. They never had to fight about anything. People started fighting when became limited resources.
Limited resources.
And,
but if that's true, why is it that people that have unlimited resources still fight?
Don't throw a monkey wrench into this crowd.
I don't know.
It's a good point.
Wait. I find it fascinating that you talk about warfare and then you talk about ant life.
Yeah, well, ant life is a cool story.
Ants also have warfare.
Oh, absolutely. But again, it goes towards the concept of maybe fighting for resources or impinging upon territory.
Territorial resources.
All right. So, and then the cool thing is about early birds. If you're a person that gets up early, like you wake up early, like if you were like living on green acres and farm life is what's for you.
That is for me.
Green acres. The idea of waking up early actually has some real benefits. We're going to talk about that. The story of helium, I should have put that back there with Mars, and people would have thought, John Carter or Mars, helium. But this is just a quick, this is where you have mentioned something to me, and I thought, oh yeah. We're all looking at, around here, everybody talks about natural gas. We're going to get methane. And then some people go, yeah, but I'm also going to make some money selling liquids. And then they're all excited. And one of the first things you said when we were talking about this, because
this was years ago.
We were going, well, what about helium?
All the helium?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So anyway, this is going to give you a little reference. Now, these other two stories are at the end.
These are
A76.
Yeah, it is a huge one.
And then there's a story at the very end about ultrasound. I actually had so many stories. I said I'm going to skip the chart. I hope nobody gets upset.
Now what is this? What is this PTY?
Well, first of all, that would be from you physicist people.
Okay.
Why? I said, okay, I want to find some physics people and ask them why they had to spell. Basically, it's just pronounced tychography.
Right.
There's a silent P, just like. Do we have to have pneumonia, or can't we just have pneumonia? But we have, do we have to have pterodactyls?
I know.
Because you know what? It's terrible on a microphone. I just blew out the speaker.
Oh, right in the glasses.
That's called a plosive, the big P. Anyway, so tychography is really a cool concept. I have the story, and then I have a reference to a better definition of number 2.
Okay,
all right. So I'll tell you what. Let's just
UAPs.
Let's just jump into that. Yeah.
All right, UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon. Watch the skies; they're everywhere. Ooh, it goes to a YouTube.
Yeah.
I'll
play some transitional music.
All right. Okay. Video will play after the ad.
Oh, well, you can appreciate my
6 seconds.
Do you recognize this theme, Robert?
Yeah.
In night vision video from a Navy destroyer, a mysterious flying triangle above the deck of the ship. The Pentagon confirming the images obtained by documentary filmmaker Jeremy Corbell were taken by Navy personnel.
That sounds good.
Expected to be a part of a report on unidentified aerial phenomenon to be presented to Congress this summer.
It's June.
Already online, some skeptics say the images are caused by cameras trying to focus, but some of the objects go beyond just flying in the sky. One shows a spherical object dipping into the ocean, similar to an incident in Puerto Rico where an object was tracked buzzing an airport, then flying into the water, popping back out before appearing to split into two and disappearing.
Isn't that a cool piece?
Over the last several weeks, some of the nation's top former intelligence officials have been raising eyebrows.
Look at that thing. It's rotating.
Former CIA Director R. James Woolsey said he knew of a case where a plane was paused in midair.
This one was new to me.
A friend of mine was able to have his aircraft stop at 40,000 feet or so and not continue operating as a normal aircraft. What was going on?
In December, ex-CIA Director John Brennan said it was arrogant to believe there are no other forms of life other than the ones on Earth. And former intelligence chief John Ratcliffe says officials have been tracking technology beyond our capabilities.
We're talking about objects picked up by satellite imagery that are difficult to explain.
Like another incident off the coast of California in 2004 when a fighter squadron encountered an object that seemed to defy gravity.
What do you think it is? I honestly don't know. I don't think
they have their own spooky
that we
music.
have developed that technology.
Ooh,
I don't think we developed it on this planet.
Video from that encounter and two other incidents were officially released by the Pentagon last year. Now news sites that the Pentagon could declassify more sightings of what they can't explain.
And guys, now here's the thing about those last 3 F-18 videos. I recently asked the former director of the Advanced Aerial Threat Identification Program at the Pentagon, point blank, are those the only videos that the government has? He said no. Those were probably the least compelling videos.
Those
and
are the
in some
least
videos,
compelling.
you see an object about 50 feet away from the cockpit. Guys.
Okay,
that's crazy.
Whoa. I am going to stop right there for just a second.
We'll go to the next one.
You've got a video 50 feet from where you are. you ought to be able to see stuff.
You should be able to.
So what are we looking? I mean, I'm wait. I'm looking out the street. I'm looking out on the window of science out onto.
There's a car 50 feet away from
Wheeling,
you.
and I'm looking at that car, and I can see. I can see that it as a car. I can see bricks on that are making up buildings. So the detail of whatever this thing is, you should be able to see.
Well, and I think that's the tease here.
It isn't going to be a blurry thing. Okay.
All right, let's go to.
I don't want to say I don't believe because I don't want them to
we don't need to
prove me
hear those
wrong.
guys.
Okay,
Let's go to the next one, the one that says radar.
All right, radar.
Now, this is because just as this literally yesterday, they said, oh, there's new footage out. And I was thinking, what? Of course, my son goes, oh, Dad, I saw that footage 2 days ago. It's old footage. I said, okay, wait a minute. Just because you saw it before me, that's
what a little snot.
I said, that's not the standard.
He is so.
I know he is
so darn funny.
He was so yan and yan. So newly released radar. It says newly released radar footage shows UFOs swarming Navy ship. Filmmaker claims. Now this guy is inserting his name and everything a lot. As Corbell, and I'm not that familiar. But check, okay, when you scroll down, you see the very first one. So this is just recently. I'm getting a video. The first thing they showed was a radar screen that was tracking it.
Okay.
A newly leaked clip from Jeremy Corbell's adding to the. Boy, he goes fast. There's the one where it actually dips into. Now this is new because they show it dipping into the ocean.
All right, mine is not coming up. It's just going around and around and around.
Yeah, mine's kind of loading.
Filmmaker who leaked footage of UFOs harassing a warship off the coast of California in 2019 released new radar footage Thursday that purportedly shows the USS Omaha being swarmed by unidentified aerial phenomena. See, I have a hard time imagining that these are just toys that somebody's decided, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to fly these around. These.
Now, there's the thing. The reason why I put this article up because it does have a lot of interesting information.
It just came up.
Okay.
Here, hold on.
The thing is, it's going to all be a readable. I was hoping it would, like the last one was.
I'm going to take it back to the beginning and turn on the sound.
781 just sped up to 46 knots, 50 knots, closing in. 38 knots.
So this is from the deck of the ship.
Relative, right? Yeah.
As information continues to trickle out about UFOs and what the government knows about them, as shows the Pentagon, new leaked clip from filmmaker Jeremy Corbell is adding to the intensity. Corbell, who's also recently introduced footage of the USS Omaha and a spherical UFO shooting into the ocean. See, it's sort of blurry.
Well, yeah.
It says the latest wild radar footage shows a number of UFOs swarming the Navy ship in 2019. New viral clip comes as defense officials are preparing to present Congress with a report. New York Post. I guess that's the end of that.
Yeah, they had all that annoying music. Like,
boy, that was annoying.
UFOs.
UFOs.
I can do my own annoying music.
UFOs.
That's okay. All right.
UFOs.
Okay, so I'm going to refer you back to the just the verbiage because you can watch these things. Again, I said we have too many stories. And I agree with this because he's saying that having what they have is stuff that's real, and it's it's archived. They have the radar data digitally archived.
Right.
And he says this is a term that you'll probably be hearing. This is corroborative electro-optic data.
Okay.
Demonstrating a significant UFO event series in a warning area off San Diego. So warning areas where, if you're familiar with San Diego, there's a whole lot of naval-based stuff there. And, there's certain areas that, But anyway, so look through this. It's very interesting, and it talks about the fact that the Pentagon has actually confirmed, the validity of a lot of this stuff. So we're only going to put this up, especially because the basic premise of all these things coming out now are because we are supposed to have an official report that will be released in
June. Right. Let me just read something. It says the objects are truly of unknown origin.
Right.
Cap said, if they are foreign drones, they displayed abilities to exceed our own technologies, anything we know of, that is, and some of them appeared to be transmedium craft, which means that they can go in water and air.
Right.
They could fly in the air. They could enter the ocean, travel through the water as easily as they travel through air. This is a pretty neat whatever it is.
There's something here, and we're going to
something fascinating is definitely going on.
Yeah. And the only thing, another reason why I put these two stories up, because we're going to spend a little bit of time on the COVID origin story, which I have found to be a very frustrating this past week. Well, it's a good and a bad story. But one of the aspects of these UFO stories is that kind of concept of, well, you can't disprove that it was Venusians. I go, well, you're right, I can't.
I can't.
But that's not the point.
Right. But I
That's
didn't. I have to. Yeah.
All right, so let's go. Let's go ahead and click the first one. This is COVID origin. This has become a big hot. I'm going to say I don't see it as a distraction. I see it as an appropriate thing to look at. And again, I think that it was originally put up because people wanted to say, why doesn't the Biden administration want to know about not the insurrection, about the origins of the COVID?
What insurrection?
Yeah.
Those were just tourists.
So that's the question. Biden asks the U.S. intel to push for stronger conclusions on the coronavirus.
That's what it sounds like.
So, and I think that the way that this was framed, let's go back. Do you see where his statement is down there?
Yes, it says, in a statement, Biden said that the intelligence community has coalesced around two likely scenarios that the coronavirus either came from human contact with an infected animal or from a laboratory accident in Wuhan, China.
Okay, so we'll stop right there for a second. I'm just going to say there's a lot to read here, but that's kind of
that's it.
We sort of have a dialectic. We have one person saying, well, this is what we think, and there's another group that says, but this is possible. The thing is, most people looking at this have agreed that these are possible things. My frustration, I'm just going to say this as we move on, is that, and we'll go to the next story because it's the other thing that has irritated me about this story. Right now, I hear so many people framing it as, well, maybe, in fact, the Trump administration was correct because in saying that it escaped from the lab and that it was a leak and on and on. And my irritation with that point is when this became a political, hot potato for everybody back when we were trying to address things or we're trying to get information, there were a whole bunch of issues about China not being, and it's very possible that China is stonewalling, and there may be reasons. There's a thing in one of the stories that talks about that. We're going to get to that in a second. But the point was, it was never an issue of, was it animal origin or was it somehow leaked? It was that it was developed as a bioweapon and then released on purpose.
As opposed to an
exactly
accident.
Well, and the thing is, people that are familiar with the data back then said that the intelligence company, the intelligence community has pretty much said what Biden has just repeated, that there are two possible, when they say likely, I wouldn't even say necessarily likely, those are two possible scenarios. And hopefully they're not as likely as they might be, because that's scary. But that's kind of been the way it is. And you can't come out and, as with the UFOs, you can't say, well, Robert's theory is they're from Mars, and my theory is that they're from Venus. And so the point is, you have to
be one or the other.
You have to have data, right? Okay, so let's just jump to the next story real quickly.
Which is the bat.
So
it says, to the Bat Cave, in search of COVID's origins, scientists reignite polarizing debate on Wuhan lab leak. So if it were a lab leak, that is a completely different thing than if it were released.
Well, it's an absolutely different thing.
Completely different.
Well,
it says, once dismissed as a conspiracy theory, the idea that the COVID virus, the COVID virus escaped from a Chinese lab is gaining high-profile attention. As it does, reputations of renowned scientists are at risk, and so is their personal safety. Well, that's kind of sad.
Yeah. Well, they're talking about the fact that Peter Daszak, now the EcoHealth Alliance has worked with the Chinese. See, and here's one of the things where they've conflated stuff. The people who are really looking into this, and I found there were a couple other stories I didn't even put up about how people are tracking the possibility of a new flu from Russia. They're watching this stuff so closely, and the reason why they're doing it is so you can prevent this from happening.
Right.
He goes, that the idea, it's a good conspiracy theory, Dashik said. Foreigners designing a virus in a mysterious lab, a nefarious activity, and then a cloak of secrecy. It is. Those are great. I mean, these are great plot lines. But the question of if it's science fiction or fact
is it real?
Is it real or not?
Is it real? Yes.
And then again, he says to attack the scientist is not only shooting the messenger, it's shooting the people and the conduit to protect us from the next pandemic.
Yeah, good idea.
Anyway, this has got a lot of stuff to scroll down through. General accepted scientific hypothesis was that COVID arose through natural mutations as it spread from bats to humans. And the thing is, they've already talked about possible intermediaries. The problem is they just haven't found it yet. Some people go, well, they would have found it. Well, not necessarily if there were just one. If it was a pangolin, or in what was it? The other thing was in Norway or someplace they destroyed all of the mink farms because it was shown to be a possibility. And in the past, they did find a culprit being sold, when the original SARS thing came around. Anyway, there's a bunch of other great stuff. They're talking about the bats 600 miles away from Wuhan and the fact that the Institute has collected coronavirus. And then one of the big arguments is this term called gain of function. And the idea is that if you are a scientist and you have a COVID that's a vaccine a virus that is a candidate for mutating into something dangerous. Part of what they want to do is this whole gain of function research is that you're going to try to determine what that next step may be so you can be ahead of it.
Yes.
So you can, if you know that there are certain proteins, you're determining which protein spikes might be used to attach to the epithelial cells of the lung, then what you want to do is know that stuff. So anyway, that gets turned around to say, well, you guys were breeding, things in the lab that could kill people.
Well, yeah.
So anyway, this is a lot to read here. There's a part I wanted to, because there was some new information. They're talking about a network of amateur sleuths have put together evidence that the Wuhan Institute has COVID-like viruses in a collection that it has not deposited in the global database. Okay, so that's an important piece of information. We need to find that, and nobody thinks that we shouldn't. Then there was another one. I'm scrolling way down to it. Says, in a paper posted to a virology forum last week, this is a professor from Tulane University, Robert Gary, who he doubts the lab leak hypothesis because he found a news, what they're calling spillover evidence. So this is what he was saying. The World Health Report shows that some of the first 168 cases of COVID were linked to 2 or more animal markets in Wuhan.
2 or more, that's interesting.
Right. He said, with strains from different markets showing slight differences in their genetic sequencing. So they're showing some evolution and some maybe variants emerging. And he says maybe one animal in a truck with a bunch of cages, and then it spreads to another species, and that's where the shift takes place. That whole thing about the shift, there's a lot of stuff that will be hard to find out here, and the last thing that we need is to make it into a giant political thing. And I think that for the most part, the present administration and the CDC and Fauci and the other people are taking the right point of view. They said, of course, we need to look at everything.
Yes.
Now, let's click on the unreviewed, because this is the part that jumped out at me. Again, I watch these stories and I go, well, wait a minute, isn't this one of the most important things? Because they're saying, okay, so why is the CDC, why are Fauci and Biden changing their tune now? What's the big deal? What were they hiding?
New info, probably.
Well, but here's the part. It says intelligence officials said to have untapped evidence. Okay, so first I'm thinking, well, what do you mean by untapped?
On COVID-19 origins.
So it goes down. President Biden's instructions to the U.S. intelligence agency to redouble its efforts investigating the origins of COVID. And then it links to that statement.
Right.
Okay, here's the part. It came on the heels of intelligence officials. Now, this is the part that was mentioned once or twice and then disappeared. And, people didn't bother to talk about this. Came on the heels. Mine just jumped. What did it do?
Came on the heels of the intelligence officials informing the White House that they possessed unreviewed evidence necessitating greater computer analysis that could potentially provide answers.
Okay, let me stop you there for a second.
Okay.
Now, just between you and me, Robert, this is interesting because, okay, Biden, I think he's the new president, right?
Yes.
Okay, because there's the new president and then the former guy. According to what they're saying here is that there was a whole trove of data that has not bothered to be reviewed. I mean,
why?
It says right here that they possessed unreviewed evidence necessitating, greater analysis that could provide the answers. The paper cited senior administration officials who opted not to detail the new evidence or computational analysis to be done, but it raises the question of whether the government fully examined existing intelligence and public health information in seeking out the virus emergence. And I'm only going to say, okay, so if it wasn't this president, it must have been.
Okay.
This was all stuff that was just shelved.
Right.
So anyway, this is an important piece. This is an important piece of information, especially for people who are trying to create some kind of a thing that, we needed we needed more information and we didn't get it, and there was stonewalling by the Chinese. They had lots of information that, for some reason, Robert, wasn't important enough to look at.
Right. Not important enough to look at. I find that hard to believe.
No, I don't. I think it's possible that somebody decided they didn't want to look at it.
Well, yeah, I can see that they don't want to look at it.
But they don't. And so appropriately, as Biden and the folks have said, we are going to look at it.
Right. Okay, good.
Because what if it were a whole trove of information that relates to what this doctor from Tulane just said? Oh, they had all kinds of data that shows that they could link it to, what do they say, 2 or more.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, please, everybody, wait for the information, or don't wait for it. Go get it. I don't like the idea of waiting for the information more than anybody else does. So
no.
But it's, as they say, I think Mulder said, the truth is out there, Robert.
It certainly is.
All right, let's quick look at Zhurong.
Zhurong.
As you remember last week, Robert.
China's Zhurong Mars rover lays down wheel tracks on the red planet. I wish people would stop calling it the red planet. It's not red. It's ochre. Or tan, or beige.
Beige. Well, do you remember where we were last week in our story, Robert? Do you remember what the picture was last week?
Yes, I do.
It was you saw this thing up on the other side of this ramp.
Up on the other side of the ramp. It's now down on. It's now down on the Martian soil.
So this is cool. So what we have here is a progression, and this is important because this picture, this may be one of those iconic photos. This is where the second nation on the home planet, known then as Earth,
Terra
Prime, Terra Infirma,
Terra Infirma.
Anyway, this is a great picture because you see those tracks. It's like the footprints on them.
There's little footprints.
Well, that's if you can trust China. No, see, this is real information where data is coming back, and not only are the Chinese sharing this, but it's retrievable by the European Space Agency and everybody else, and the Pentagon and NASA. And so, anyway, just we're going to continue to follow this. I don't want to spend too much time on it because,
cool.
If I go too fast, Robert, I'm going to actually run out of stories. I better be careful.
I doubt that.
Now, because we are talking about things that are cool on Mars, check out this next thing about Martian clouds.
I like Martian clouds. In fact, I have seen where there are so many clouds sometimes on Mars that some astronomers call it the cloudy planet.
Ooh.
Isn't that interesting?
That's it's pretty amazing because I always just think of people trying to peer through the atmosphere of Venus and wondering what's under there. But this is really beautiful because it says that Curiosity rover captures shining clouds on Mars.
They're beautiful.
And there's actually something
look
really
how pretty. It looks like a rainbow.
Well, that's one of the things that's really cool because you see down in the lower. If you're looking at the first image, you're seeing this. It's just it looks like a really cool sky. It says when Mars is farthest from the sun, its oval-shaped orbit. That's the coldest time of the year, and cloudy days are rare, but they show up at the equator. Now, the thing that is cool about the analysis of these is how they were able to determine. Well, basically, they're assuming that these are kind of ice crystals of something or other, right? And then so they're trying to figure out, some of them shimmering with color, as Robert just pointed out. One of the things that's neat is that if you scroll down, it's talking about how they were able. Oh, here it is. Curiosity's team. The early arrival clouds are actually at higher altitudes than
37
typical.
miles or 60 kilometers in the sky and are composed of water ice.
Well, and that's what they say, most of them. But look what it says about these.
But the clouds Curiosity has imaged are at a higher altitude, where it's very cold, indicating that they are likely made of frozen carbon dioxide or dry ice. So we're looking at water ice clouds and carbon dioxide ice clouds.
Yeah, 2 different levels. And it talks about how they were able to use some, I was looking at the angles. And so right in the middle, you see an actual little, it's probably just 2 photos that are put together, but you see the movement of the clouds.
Sure.
This looks like something you would see in Arizona or something, doesn't it?
That's cool.
Then the thing that's very cool.
Rippling structures.
Let's see, those are the color images. Then I think there may be something else. Okay, we don't have to go through it, but they talk about the Noctilucent Clouds.
Yeah, the Noctilucent Clouds.
It says shining clouds, and it says these twilight clouds grow brighter as they fill with crystals, then darken after the sun's position drops below the. This is just one useful clue to the time. So they're using math and angles. Oh, I love it. There's some scientists walking by. I love that. Hi, guys. You don't have to be quiet. It's all right. And then it talks about the iridescent mother of pearl clouds.
Oh, that's beautiful.
This is a lot of good stuff here. And of course, Robert, these are the other colorful things on the whatever planet.
Yeah, on the ochre planet.
And if you were actually on the planet and standing next to Curiosity, you could actually see the colors with the naked eye. Wow.
That's awesome.
I love this last little line. I always marvel at the colors that show up. Reds and greens and blues and purples, Lemon said. It's really cool to see something shining with lots of color on Mars.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that because the kind of analysis that can be done gives you all kinds of really cool information. Now, Robert, I didn't get to this one last week because we just kind of ran out of time with all the exciting science stories.
Yep.
But
Starforge?
Take a look at Starforge, and this is more of a visual. So, we might as well watch it. I think it's kind of short. It's something that we can recommend to you because it says, watch this beautiful high-resolution simulation of how stars are born.
All right, let me scroll down. Ooh, there it is.
You got it on the video. So go ahead and play it. I don't know if it has any audio or not, but go ahead and I'll let you describe it as you play it.
All right.
It's like about a minute long.
So it shows in millions of years, and it has 10 PC, that's parsecs.
Okay.
1 parsec is 3.26 light years. So that distance is 32.6 light years across. We're at 3 million years now. Oh, and you can see it collapsing down, and oh, what a neat. Ooh, there's a star that just started spewing stuff out. Another star, that's a third star spewing stuff out. This is awesome. It now goes into 3D. If you get an opportunity, you have to watch this. Oh wow, this is really cool. It's a computer simulation of a massive cloud of cosmic gas, roughly 20 parsecs or 65 light years across, collapses to form new stars. White areas indicate denser regions of gas, including some baby stars. Then orange highlight places where there's lots of variations in the gas motion, such as jets launched by the new stars. Wow. This is very, 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 very cool.
It is a neat thing.
It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And then you go down and there's some other images lower down. It says using Starforge, they've confirmed that the jets launched by new stars help to regulate how much material a star amasses. In simulations without jets, typical stars were about 10 times the mass of the sun, way bigger than the actual average star. As soon as you add the jet feedback to your simulation, stellar masses start coming out more or less on the dot.
Wow, that's cool.
For what they are observed to be. Wow. So obviously when a star forms, it doesn't just form from gravitational collapse of all the gas and dust around it. You get these jets, and the jets then cause some of that gas and dust not to become part of the star.
Right. Yeah. And
Wow.
Again, the simulation thing is it says it
this
talks about the
simulation is fantastic.
The process, of course, takes millions of years.
Yeah.
But it says or months of computing time, even on supercomputers.
Wow.
I want you to think about that computing time thing, Robert, when we come up to another story
That's
here pretty
just
soon.
beautiful. Thank you for showing me
Now,
that.
Starforge,
I had missed that.
I know, Robert, that in your basement you've got supercomputers running day and night, right?
I'm trying to accumulate Bitcoin, and I'm up to $1.50. It has cost me millions.
Well, the thing,
but I am up to $1.50.
Well, we're going to look at this story because I'm going to just tell you, I'm just not a fan of the whole
I think it's ridiculous.
Cryptocurrency. I'm thinking you come up to an Indian tribe and you want to get you're thinking, I can sell them this copper. I can get this copper pot and trade it for a whole bunch of those beaver furs. And people go, well, yeah, I've got something good. And you want it.
Scam.
But I want you to click on Bitcoin Mine because I saw this story and I said this showed up all over the place. So I'll let you take a look at it.
Okay.
Here. Massive
Bitcoin mine discovered in UK after police raid suspected cannabis farm. Oh, cannabis and Bitcoin.
You may think so. Let's go to the key points, Robert.
The mine was selling thousands of pounds worth of electricity. What?
They were stealing.
Wait. Stealing thousands of pounds worth of electricity. What does that mean?
Well, no, this is in Britain, so they're talking about money, monetarily.
Money. Okay, I thought we were talking weight here.
Well, I know.
Right, from the main supply.
Okay.
So these people were stealing electricity.
They tapped in. Okay.
They tapped in.
So that's your first
point. So
point.
that they could do their Bitcoin.
Well, that was good.
Police searched the unit on May 18th on the back of intelligence that led them to believe it was being used as a cannabis farm.
So what they thought that they by measuring, they thought, wow, there's immense heat, from like lights. It was in a dark, it was in a building that they couldn't really see. And they were able to determine. Now, the last bullet point.
These are the classic signs of a cannabis farm, police said. However, officers found a bank of about 100 computers and 0 cannabis on entering the building. So they had used it all up and decided that they were going to invest in Bitcoin.
Well, all right. So now just scroll down and you're going to see, look at this picture. Bitcoin mine. First of the whole concept of I'm going, what the hell? I have heard people talk about that one of the main objections to Bitcoin, Robert,
is that it uses a lot of electricity.
It's energy intensive. And I'm thinking,
incredibly energy intensive.
And I wasn't really totally clear. So this is a picture of in the Black Country Industrial Unit. And there they are. And look at all these computers. They're on these racks of computers.
And there is a fan that is blowing air in and blowing it out. Yeah. These are the classic signs.
Okay. You scroll down, you see another close up of one of the
certainly
units.
Not what we were expecting. It had all the hallmarks of a cannabis cultivation setup, and I believe it's the second such crypto mine we've encountered in the West Midlands.
So again, I'm thinking to myself, okay, wait a minute, we're mining. I'm wondering what's the mechanism here. So it says Bitcoin miners use purposefully built computers. Like if you're a gamer, you want certain things
to solve complex mathematical equations that effectively enable a Bitcoin transaction to go through. The miners are rewarded for their efforts in the digital currency. So to be able to make the
transaction.
a Bitcoin transaction work, you have to have these in encrypted codes. And
Incredibly
to have the encrypted codes, you have to have computers, and you have to have lots of computers. And that makes lots of heat, and that costs you lots of money. And then you're rewarded in helping the transactional accounts of the Bitcoin by getting a Bitcoin.
So you're like a broker. But now, okay, so we'll jump off this because I'm going to go just to a little bit of what the Bitcoin is about in a second. But you're going to like this next. It says the entire process is incredibly energy intensive because of the amount of power used by the computers.
Right.
And what's really funny is there's an ad that pops up where that's a related story that Bitcoin is encouraged to use renewable energy. This according to the CEO of Bitcoin.
Solar-powered Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Won't that be wonderful? Okay, so,
so
it's
2.
incredibly intensive.
Yes. So Bitcoin mining explained.
So, well, no, go down now. Before here's the last thing before we go to that one.
Okay, all right.
Bitcoin this is the corporation, Bitcoin, that's, using its blockchain and all that stuff.
Yeah, blah, blah,
Bitcoin has a carbon footprint comparable to the country of New Zealand, producing 36.95.
There's 4 million people in New Zealand.
Well, and 36.95 megatons of CO2 annually attributed to Bitcoin processing.
That's disgusting.
Well, all right. So now let's go. We're just going to touch on this a bit because I'm basically. Is there such a term as a never Bitcoiner?
Yes.
That may be me.
I am. It is a scam, folks. Come on.
Well, look at these little happy Bitcoin miners down here.
Aren't they happy?
This is a great little picture. They've got little figures, very nice little figurines that look like they're from a railroad thing or something.
It says, since its introduction in 2009...
by Satoshi Nakamoto.
Yeah. Bitcoin has excited investors, tech pros, and everyday people alike, even celebrities like Mike Tyson. That pretty much is all I need to know.
It says he's the pro boxer.
But you don't have to be any kind of pro to understand how Bitcoin works.
So Mike Tyson, because I'm sure with some investors, has launched a Bitcoin ATM and a Bitcoin wallet app.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be any kind of a genius. Okay.
So Bitcoin is the first decentralized digital currency that allows peer-to-peer transfers without any intermediaries such as banks, governments, agents, or brokers. See, to me, what this is that if you're a drug dealer or you're,
ransomware specialist,
dealing cars or ransomware, this is for you.
Oh yeah, this is physical.
Yeah, and this is what irritates the snot out of me. I think this should be illegal.
Well, you think?
Out with.
Well, you think that accountability and transparency would help our world, is what you're trying to say?
You mean like the Congress?
Oh, maybe. Okay, here's the only thing I want. I'm going to say that this particular article
twerks me off.
If you are a science fiction fan, you're looking at this because it says, what are the advantages? Oh, it's
the advantages is that it can't be traced.
It says it's decentralized and there are no intermediaries. But we just got finished saying that Bitcoin miners get paid to enable a thing. So it's gonna be kind of like, well, we don't boost our price. Of course, there are 3 middlemen between the manufacturer and then it talks about, because then it gets into the whole theory of blockchain. It's a publicly distributed ledger, Robert, in which the transaction is recorded, or they're recorded in chronological order. Any record or transaction added to the blockchain cannot be modified or altered, meaning transactions are safe from hacking. And then it talks about the block is the smallest unit, and then there's a block has 4 fields. This is starting to sound like quantum mechanics. It has the previous hash. The attributable this attribute stores the value of the hash of the previous block, and that's how they're linked. It has the data. Then it has a nonce. That's the proof of work consensus algorithm. The nonce is a random value used to vary the input of the hash value. And then it goes to the hash, and it says this is obtained by passing the previous hash value and data on the nonce through the SHA-256 algorithm, which is a digital signature. Now, it goes on and on to talk about Bitcoin mining and the concepts of why the blockchain works and the mathematical solving. It says today, Bitcoin miners who solve a puzzle get 12.5 Bitcoins.
Right.
And I mean, that's a lot of Bitcoin, I'm thinking. But, on and on and on, and it gives you an example. But the one thing I'm looking at is, okay, Robert, at the basis of this, there are several people, who understand all of the way it works.
Sure.
And the idea that you have everybody sucked into, it's almost like, well, it's all, you know what, I used to use AT&T and then T-Mobile came, but you know what, I think we should all be on Skynet.
Yeah.
It's like one of these things where we're going, and
I
the thing
agree.
is, this is not the only cryptocurrency.
No. There are others out there.
Well, and the other thing is this, in some ways, even though they're saying this is more efficient, the complexity and cumbersomeness of this. I'm just going to read one more thing and then we'll go on. In terms of the prevention of hacking, it says, what if someone tries to hack the data? Well, blockchain, as the name implies, is a chain of blocks. Let's call the blocks A, B, and C. Each block has solved a puzzle and generated a hash value of its own, which is the identifier. Now, suppose the person tries to tamper with block B and change the data. The data is aggregated in the block, so if the data of the block changes, then the hash value of that is digital signature of the block will also change. It will therefore corrupt the chain after it. The blocks ahead of the block B will get all delinked because the previous hash value block C will not remain valid. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, oh wow, you just wrecked the blockchain.
Yeah.
I wonder if anybody would want to do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, this
seems interesting, doesn't it?
This is just.
I just want to say that it to me it's like, okay,
string theory.
No,
it's not that.
It's a pyramid scheme kind of thing.
It has that feel to it.
It really does. It just has that feel. Now, I could be wrong, and that's okay. I don't mind being wrong. But it just doesn't feel right. It feels like if you want to do really bad things, this is the currency for you.
Well, if you have the stuff, if you've got the information.
If you want to do bad things and you want to keep it from other people, this is what you need to do.
Now, see, this reminds me. We need some calming music, Robert, as a transition.
Oh,
you think?
Please do. Yes.
I'm thinking of this great old riff from. Are you getting relaxed?
Oh, I'm like drooling. Yeah. But that's my usual. So
I love this. This is so cool. I want you to listen. Are you listening?
I am.
And this actually is a song that goes like this, Robert. I get no kick from Bitcoin. Anyway, that's the chord progression for I get no.
I'm laughing and banged into my microphone.
I get no kick from champagne, Robert. That's a great song. I know you sing that every morning.
I do.
All right, let's jump.
Gargling in the shower.
Bitcoin reminds me a little bit of this ant life story.
A warfare or a ant life?
This ant life.
Okay.
Parasite. This is so good. And this has a lot of words that make me feel Bitcoin. Parasites. Study finds, this is so cool, Robert, infected ants live much longer. Okay.
Oh, that's nice to know.
So,
life expectancy of tapeworm infected worker ants. I didn't know they were tapeworms for ants.
Well,
is significantly higher than that of their uninfected nest mates and resembles that of ant queens.
Now, this is such a weird, creepy story.
Just bizarre.
Okay, so and this is the species Temnothorax nylanderi.
One of my favorites.
Those guys are so handsome.
They are.
In their thoraxes are very. Okay, again, these stories. I always apologize to people that if you're just listening to the little snippet that we have, you're missing a big part of the cool story. It says that according to the results of a multi-year scientific study, ants of the species that we just mentioned show exceptionally high survival rates when they're infected with a tapeworm.
When they're infected with a tapeworm.
Now, see, this when I saw this, it just made me think of some various science fiction things where, like you were symbiotically linked with some alien thing that got into your body and it made you more intelligent or killed cancer. You remember those great stories that are out there?
I do.
Well, the thing about this is that it talks about the queens of the species can live for up to 20 years. But if you're one of the female workers,
you only live to be an age of 2.
And that's rarely. They usually are just like burned out after months and they're gone. But if you scroll down through the story, it turns out that, and I want people to read this more in detail, but because I'm looking at how our time is running out. Once they're infected by the tapeworms, whatever the relationship is or whatever pheromones are released or, they basically are treated as if they were a queen.
Oh. So if you're treated as though that you're a queen, then you're going to be fed queen food.
Yeah, well, you get better care. You're cleaned, and you know how with queens they make sure that they remove any things that are,
Well, that makes sense.
So the thing that's amazing is that they're talking about some of them actually live longer than the queens.
Okay, so it says chemical signals of the infected ants were found to elicit more attention of their nest mates. The infected insects live a life of luxury, but the fact that they receive more social care cannot alone account for their prolonged lifespan.
Yeah, so there's more to it.
Huh.
See, I love this story because, as I said, this is one of those kind of things that if somebody came along and said, Robert, if you just had this tapeworm in your system, not only would you could lose as much weight as you want, and you could be a svelte 185 pounds of rock hard muscle.
Oh,
last. You would do it
like that.
I'm just saying a lot when I see
and you could live to be 1,000 years old.
When I see the commercials on TV for what people will do for various cosmetic purposes. All right, so here's something you can do: early bird. Check this early bird story out.
Alrighty.
And I get this because typically we get up early out on the farm. That's the way we speak in West Virginia, out on the farm.
No, we don't.
No, we don't. But we have chickens, and
you have chickens.
And lately, I have gotten to actually. I'll wake up and before the chickens realize it's time to get. I'll open up their cage and they'll say, "What the cluck?" and the rooster will look at me like, "Hey, give me a break here, man." But this is important. According to this new study,
it says waking just 1 hour earlier cuts depression risk by double digits.
This is a big study,
this
too.
Is from the University of Colorado at Boulder. Genetic study of 840,000 people. Well, man, they could have done a larger study. Found that shifting sleep time earlier by just an hour decreases the risk of major depression by 23%.
So this is a cool story, and I'll tell you what. Again, I'm
waking up just
I'm doing
1
a lot
hour
of
earlier.
Wake me up before you go. That kind of played that, but rather than do that, I'm going to say, please read this story.
Wow, that's really cool.
But I want to point out something. I want to ask you a question, Robert.
Me?
Yeah, I'm going to ask you a question because I know that you would like to get up early.
Oh, I'd love being up early.
Okay, so if here's my question that relates to something you and I have. I'm going to say we've railed about in the past. If I'm looking at information that says that by shifting someone's sleep time by now this is the operative phrase, by just an hour, decreases the risk of major depression. Would you not conclude that by shifting people's wake time by an hour, and I'm going to say in one direction or another, has a real effect on your mental state of mind? I mean, in this case, major depression. Can you think of any time when people do something that
I can think
crazy?
Of 2 times a year.
Yeah,
when we change our clocks.
Oh, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah,
too.
so I'm not really sure that this is valid.
Well, but listen, I'm willing to accept that the University of Colorado at Boulder,
they're on to something, but I'm not sure what.
Well, they've quantified that moving you earlier is better. But then I'm thinking, okay, if that 23% shows up as an improvement in your health, what happens if
when you go the other direction?
The other direction.
That's obvious.
And just like Dr. Fauci and the people that are investigating the origins of the coronavirus, I'm willing to look at all possibilities here. But I am just saying that to be able to clinically determine a significant effect by shifting people's wake time, then I think it's incumbent upon all science to say, okay, so what's the deal?
If we go the other direction?
I'm just telling you, as a person who's worked in education and knows teachers, they go, oh God, they're going to change. It's time to fall back or leap forward. They go, is it spring forward or fall back or and they know that for the entire week when you change the time, that the students are always. It's a week of sort of mild chaos in their processes.
Yep. So. I agree.
All right. Before we run out of time, let's look at helium.
Let's do that.
Helium. The incomparable Deja-Thoris. And no, helium, the capital of Mars, as we all know.
As we all know.
This is a story that popped up just because you made the point long ago that I hadn't even been thinking about. When people are selling their gas rights or whatever they're doing with that stuff,
their
they should say, what about
helium rights?
What about my helium? helium, because
That's
are they
right.
actually selling this helium? Well, check this out. Read just the first couple lines there.
All right.
Global helium.
The Global Helium on Tuesday, May 25th, said that it has added an additional 37,100 hectares.
Oh, that's like 90,000 plus. Wow.
91,675 acres to the Vermilion Hills area in Saskatchewan for helium exploration.
Oh, you better start the old theme song
I
there.
think I'm going to start my theme song here.
Oh, there it is. So, anyway, 90,000 acres in Saskatchewan. Because, Robert, it turns out you can sell this helium stuff.
I understand. In fact, there is a world helium shortage.
I'm really
so
depressed
isn't
now.
that interesting?
I'm really depressed about that helium shortage.
No, birthday parties all over the country. You know what? It could be
They're
part of
going
that.
down.
I didn't get to my other anger issue about this whole thing about inflation, Robert.
Well,
inflation.
we'll just have to do that next week, which means that these folks will have to come back.
Come back next week.
Simple as that.
Science is our jam.